All right, welcome back to Carter's Corner Daily. We're a touch early, but that's okay. We've got a lot to go through today. Um, it is the 25th of the 5th. Before we start, I want to say a huge happy birthday to my daughter who turns 3 today. So happy birthday, Estelle. Um, so she's into her terrible threes. We were waiting for the terrible twos, but they never came. So we're thinking terrible threes. So half hour early today. Normally it's 1:30, but we're doing it at 1 o'clock. So at the end of last week, yesterday's show, we had a few questions come in. There's one about local council, which I'll address in a moment, and there was another one in regards to school children and stuff like that. Should they be concerned about being forced to vaccinate with COVID-19 before they go to school? So I'll touch that one in a minute. It's up. My stance is it's up to you whether you push or not. That's a great thing about Australia; you get to decide. But I'm going to arm you with some information and where to get this information, and so you can actually make an informed decision and decide what's best for your family. Because my stance on vaccines is you should be, if you feel it is the right decision for your family, by all means get the vaccination. If you feel it's not the best decision for your family, then don't get the vaccination. And that's what being part of Australia is. You get to decide what's best for your family. Okay, so it looks like I've forgot to turn a few sound things off, so I'm just going to quickly go fix that one up. Let's turn that one off. And that should be that. Okay, cool, fantastic. So, I have my coffee. Can't do these things without coffee. Have to have coffee. Now, let's start with the local council. So, the question was in regards to subdividing property. The person that called up, I don't know if they want their name on this or not, so I'll just say the question. Their landlord only did a 6 month lease because they were going to try and subdivide the block of land they were living in. And then the subdivision request got declined. And they were like, hang on, you own the land. Isn't it your right to do what you want with the land? You know, you own it. It's yours. You do what you want. There's a couple of things on this one. No, even though you own the land, my understanding is you actually own the top 30 centimetres of the land. Everything below that is still owned by the Australian government all the way down to the centre of the earth. The reasoning behind that, and this also goes to the close your gates for mining exploration. You may own the top part of the land, but the government still owns everything that your land is on top of. So if they want to go into your property and look for gold, silver, iron ore, whatever, they've still got the right to go onto your land without your permission, which I think is kind of stupid. It really needs to be assessed. You'll remember there was a guy, I think it was in Joondalup, he built like a 12-metre high slide into his pool. The local council kicked up a stink over it. The Honourable Aaron Stonehouse actually defended his right to use his land as he chose. Which, something like that, I agree. He should have been allowed to have his slide. It's on his property. He warned everyone, you use the slide at your own risk, blah, 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 blah. He still had to take it out. So in regards to subdividing of land, there's a couple of reasons why. Each area of land is zoned accordingly to the population density that they want in that area. For example, you've got rural, semi-rural, residential, then you've also got commercial land usage. And then if we have a look, excuse me, just at the residential side of things, you've got, I think it's R20, R40, R60, I'm not sure if there's an R120, but there's an R160, which is like high-rise apartments. So each area is zoned differently depending on the number of expected people to live in that block of land or the house versus the total population density that they want. So in that area, they might have been zoned for an R40, but with the subdivision, it would have taken it to an R60, so therefore they declined the subdivision. So a lot of it's around not overpopulating areas that shouldn't be overpopulated. That's the reason they have the different zonings. Also, they under different zonings, you're allowed to have different commercial properties. So I think it's an R40, you're allowed to have a deli, but you're not allowed to have a supermarket. So there'll be different zonings for little different areas to be allowed to put supermarkets in certain areas. Oh, but what about houses across the road for supermarkets? So the border between the two zonings is probably the road between the supermarket on one side and the residential on the other side. So when you've got a house in the middle of a block that you want to change from an R40 to an R60, you have to change the whole block. You can't just change that one house. And they come up for review quite regularly. So in the next couple of years, he might be able to do it. So the other reason they do that sort of stuff is so you don't end up with, say, a blacksmith right next door to a gas refinery, next door to a daycare centre, next door to a strippers or something like that. So is a lot of it's about safety in society. Also, there's certain businesses you don't want next to houses. Toxic waste facilities you don't want next to residential areas. So it's a way to keep those things separated as well. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit on that side of things. Now, the other question I had is an absolute doozy. I'm glad I'm doing this on Twitch and not YouTube, because if I had to do it on YouTube, I'd probably get banned. So they sent me a no mandatory vaccination parties flyer. It was talking about Mark McGowan trying to force children to be vaccinated if they want to go to school. No jab, no play. There's a couple of things I want to bring people's awareness to. So currently, if you want your kids to go to school, they need to be vaccinated or in the vaccination program. So they've got to have their vaccination records and all that sort of stuff. My kids personally, I've vaccinated them for everything that's on that record. They are not vaccinated for COVID-19. Now, the bit of information I want to bring you guys awareness to. So this is not my statements. I'm not making these claims. You can actually find this yourself online. So if you have a look up here, this is the address where you can get it from. So fda.gov/media/144413/downloads. The way I actually found this, I just did a Google search. It's a thing in regards to the therapeutic index of COVID-19. So there's a couple of things that concerns me. First of all, I cannot find a therapeutic index for COVID-19 vaccines for any of them anywhere. So what a therapeutic index is, it's a couple of things it covers. So first of all, dosage, effective dosage. How much of a certain substance do you need to achieve the required results? For example, with painkillers, they used to remove 50% of the pain at a certain level. So with tramadol, they reduce it's for chronic pain. So to reduce the chronic pain by 50%, not to eliminate it, just reduce it by 50%. So how much of a dosage do you need to reduce the pain by 50%? So there's no information on the COVID-19, how much do you need to reduce the chances of COVID-19 in a dosage. There is a lot of other fancy information in this sheet, but I haven't had a chance to go right through it 100% yet. Is they're constantly updating it. Now, one thing I will quickly show you, revised on the 19th of May 2021. This document is 6 days old. So as far as I know, this has not been changed yet, but it will probably get changed again. The other things that are taken into the therapeutic index is dosage to harm and lethal dosage. So how much of a substance do you need to take before it starts killing you? How much of a substance do you have to take before it starts causing you harm? So all of these things are not covered anywhere. I could not find the therapeutic index anywhere. I've even called Roger Cook's office to find out if they actually have the information on it. Where can I get that information from? Apparently they've never been asked, according to his staff. So I honestly do not know if it's even been released yet by the different vaccination companies. So I'm a little bit concerned by that. All the other vaccines out there for measles, mumps, rubella, and all that sort of stuff, I could find them, but this one I could not. So this is the Pfizer BioNTech fact sheet. So this is for the Pfizer vaccine. This does not go to the AstraZeneca, so this is only for the Pfizer. So this is the one for people under the age of 50. Now, a couple of things here that have been tested. So first of all, this is talking about pregnancies. So is it safe to use for pregnant women? They did the lab rat tests and there was no, they couldn't find any vaccine-related adverse effects. Here we go. So 21 and 14 days prior to mating and on gestation days 9 and 20. So you got to remember, a rat can breed a mouse can breed every 3 weeks. No vaccine-related adverse effects on female fertility, fetal development, or postnatal development were reported in the studies. Now, the thing is, it doesn't say how many lab rats were actually tested. So if you test one, there's no results, you can't really call that a test. If you test, say, a couple of thousand and there's no results, well, then you can't assume that it's safe at that point. If you tested 50,000 lab rats and none of them had any adverse reactions, then you'd say it's safe for a pregnant woman to take the vaccine. Lactations, data not available for assess. So not sure if it's safe to be used while lactating or not. So the breastfeeding. Pediatric use. Now, this is the one that I want to bring up because the question was around, should the COVID-19 vaccine be mandatory for school-aged children? So this is a line in particular here that is of concern. Emergency use authorized by Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine does not include use in individuals younger than the 12 years of age. Emergency use authorization of the biotech COVID-19 vaccine in adolescents 12 through 18 years of age based on safety and effectiveness data in this age group and in adults. So pretty much they've only, from what I'm reading here, they have only tested kids 12 to 18. They have not tested on kids under the age of 12. So that means that the information for this is inconclusive, whether it's safe for young children or not. Now, there's other medication that has been used in the past that was definitely used inappropriately. Thalfalmahide, I think it's called. It was supposed to be a morning sickness treatment. If you're not pregnant, it was very, very safe to use. The moment you're planning to have kids, you're pregnant at the time, you're breastfeeding, all sorts of problems came out. It got FDA approval straight away, and it turned out that potentially 10,000 stillborn births were caused by the drug, numerous birth defects, really, really, really bad drug. If you're using it for morning sickness, which it probably shouldn't have been used. So again, going back to, should this be mandatory for school-aged children? So when you start year 1, you're between 4 to 6 years of age. So kindergarten, you're 4, 5, year 1, 5, 6, so on and going up. So from what I'm reading, it has not been tested to be safe in that age bracket. If it has not been tested to be safe, should it be forced on the children who are going to school? Should it be mandatory? Now, this is a government document. This is valid as of 6 days ago. I'm going to let you make up your own choice. Let's be honest here. It's not good news. So I did just want to cover those things off before we actually get into the full show properly. So hopefully that's given you a bit of information. This is actual government documents that these came from. This isn't information I'm just making up to try and make my show better. This is legitimate. So a little bit concerning. So anyway, so hopefully that's answered some of your questions, whether you think you will be using the COVID-19 vaccine, whether you'll be getting your kids to use it before they go to school, and if they do make it mandatory for your children to go to school, will you be withdrawing your kids from school because of it? So there it is. So let's get into these press releases, and hopefully there's some more information. How did that come up? That's come up not bad. Sorry, I had to move my screen around a little bit to get the data sheet in so it's easy to read. So I've just got to fix this up a bit, and that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so Tuesday, 25th of May, security of payment bill to be introduced into Parliament. Now, I remember this was a One Nation bill in the federal side of things. So what it's about is, if you're a contractor, Parliament House used to have a really long payment cycle. I think it was 45 days. So you do the job, then a month and a half later you get paid, which is pretty poor. So there was a bill passed to try and bring that down to 15 days. So let's have a look. The Building and Construction Industry Security of Payment Bill 2021 to be introduced into Parliament today. Improve security of payment across WA building and construction industry is a priority of the McGowan government. I don't know if this is government payments or if it's just payments in general. The bill was introduced in the last Parliament but stalled by the Liberals and Nationals. The McGowan government will introduce the Building and Construction Industry Security of Payment Bill 2021 into State Parliament today. The bill improves security of payments across the Western Australian building and construction industry, complementing measures already delivered through the expanded use of project bank accounts on government projects. So it might be related to the construction of government buildings. So, for example, Roy 8, when it was still being built, if they eventually do build it, the Kwinana Outer Harbour. So anything the government's trying to build, like infrastructure projects, let's say freeway updates, new traffic lights, whatever, instead of doing the work and waiting 45 days to get paid, you'll get paid a lot quicker. The bill introduces a mandatory retention trust scheme to protect subcontractors' retention money from being misappropriated or lost altogether in insolvency at each level of the contract chain. So my understanding, when there was work done at the Perth airport, there was government grants involved in that one. One of the companies that was subcontracting out to get the construction done, when the job finished, they put in a clawback clause into the contract. So let's say your contract was $100,000 to do some floor tiling. So you did the floor tiling, and then one of the other trades comes through and ripped up half your work and then to do their work, and then you had to come back in to finish it off. So that additional work on top of what you've already done was called a clawback, or something that a chargeback. So what happens is you then charge the contractor to get money for the additional repairs and maintenance and whatnot. So what this company did is, once the job was finished and they got paid, they declared solvency, bankrupt, dissolved the company, and all these companies that were owed, like I'm talking insane amounts of money, just went gone. Didn't have to pay any of it. So this is good because it will prevent a lot of that from happening. And in addition to retention trust schemes, the bill provides an effective, rapid dispute resolution process to speed up the receipt of outstanding payments, including provisions for minimum monthly progress payments to ensure subcontractors are not left with large outstanding invoices. This will improve the likelihood that contractors will have already been paid up in the event of an upstream insolvency and provide an effective dispute resolution process. Just talking about the Perth airport, some of the guys that were working out there I actually knew personally. They did like 3 months work without getting paid, and the problem is the companies that were getting the work done didn't get paid either. So there's schemes to get the money back, but it's a very long process. So they did eventually get paid, but it was like 6 months later. So, and for, let's say you're a business who hires, 10, 15 guys, you can't afford to do that because that's coming straight out of your bottom line until you can chase that 6 months down the track, and you need lawyers and it's extremely expensive. So it's a very, very bad thing to do. The bill was also addressed. The bill will also address registered building contractors with a history of ripping off subcontractors or who engage in phoenixing activities. So a phoenixing activity is, there's one company in Perth that does it a lot. Their name is, and I'm going to name it because they do it a lot, PSS, Perth Security Services, WA. So every 5 years or so, they dissolve the company and rebuild it. They've been in the same location for a very, very long time. And so what they do, they rack up a heap of debt, dissolve it, and then start again as a new company and keep on going. And the reason why I'm happy to name them is because they still owe me money. Anyway, and we'll see the unscrupulous operators removed from the industry. I wish they would do this for the security industry as well. It is a very, very big problem in the security industry because you can just cycle through company names and it doesn't matter. Okay, so comments from the Commerce Minister, Amber Jade Sanderson. The McGowan government has reintroduced our security of payments bill as a priority, and I call on the Liberal National, isn't it national opposition, not to delay its passage through the parliament. The thing is, they can't. There is no opposition. Whatever they put forward is going to get immediately approved. It doesn't matter. It's welcome to the dictatorship of Labor for the next 4 years. This bill improves security of payment across the Western Australia building and construction industry and complements measures already delivered through the expanded use of project bank accounts on the government projects. I'm really curious to find out what that is, and I might do some personal research later. The bill provides protections we committed to introducing but were unable to enact due to the Liberal and National Party's effort in delaying and obstructing the McGowan government's legislative agenda during our first term. I'd be interested to see why. I can understand why the Liberals would block it, because they just want to keep as much money in the bank as possible. Huge generalisation there. Please don't hate me. The Nationals, considering they deal a lot with the farmers and things like that, they're kind of used to 30-day payment periods. I'm not sure why the Nationals would block this. Be interesting to see. Anyway, the previous Liberal National government did nothing in 8.5 years of government to support subcontractors. Subcontractors, and when the parties had the opportunity to work with the McGowan government to pass this important legislation just last year, they failed. You know what? In the context of this press release, the bill sounds like a good idea. I'd be interesting. I'm confused why the Liberals would fight it and the Nationals. I thought this is something that they could probably work together with. I'm wondering if they fought it just to spite the Labor Party. So I'll have to have a look at that one. My one thing I would be a bit curious about, this seems to me to be more of a Labor going into the federal election and saying, hey, look at us, we're so great, we did this, Labor tried to fight it, blah, 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 blah. I think these comments at the end were just, like I said, a stab at Liberals and Nationals. I'm wondering if Labor's starting to say, hey, our sheen is starting to be removed. We need to start doing Liberals and Nationals again to help the federal election. So, I don't know, some of these comments were just not needed. But hey, it's politics. It's what they do. They attack each other constantly. So anyway, moving on to the next one. Okay, so this one is from Tourism Minister David Templeman. Templeman. All right, let's get this sorted out, get the Zoom sorted, and turn it on. Beautiful. I'm actually getting pretty good at this. Like I said, the OBS system that I use to do the streaming is actually very, very good. So if anyone's out there, I'm not paid by OBS. This is not a sponsored event. I just find their system is very, very easy to use. And we've got comments. I really should check that more. Welcome to the stream. Okay, I asked partner if he was okay with me homeschooling our kids if they try to make COVID-19 mandatory for kids to attend school. By the way, welcome to the stream. Thalidomide, or whatever, however you pronounce it, it's actually a really, really good drug, but do not ever use it if you're pregnant or planning to get pregnant. It's just really bad at that point. So it's good to see people listening. So welcome to the stream. Jumping on to the next one. Mills and Mystery added to Stay, Play and Save Round 2. Yeah, Mystery. Interesting. $200 off a midweek city hotel for Western Australians. Mystery tours and meal options added in Round 2, supported by McGowan government through Tourism WA. So I'm guessing what it is, you jump onto a plane or bus or something and takes you to a random place, and they take $200 off your bill. It's not a bad idea to get people out into the regional areas, because especially during times like this, regional areas need all the help they can get. All right, let's have a look at this. West Australians have even more reason to stay, play, and save in the city this winter with a surprise tour or experience and bonus meals added to a successful midweek city accommodation promotion. Now, it looks like it might be city only. I would have liked to have seen this pushed out to the regional areas a lot more, especially places that are affected by the Chinese ban tariffs. Wine areas such as Margaret River, Denmark, Albany, places down that way. Lobster areas, say Geraldton, would have been really nice to have a couple of these things. Once the hotels are up and running again, especially after Cyclone Seroja, doing something like $1 flights to Kalbarri, like Geraldton Kalbarri, to start getting people up there, because it's an amazing place. It is absolutely gorgeous. If you're a surfer, phenomenal surfing up there. Something to get people out of Perth and into those regional areas, I think is really, really needed. They're already doing more flights. So the flights are there, but let's make them more cost effective and support these local businesses in these really hard hit places. A couple of other places that are really, really nice to go. Believe it or not, Kalgoorlie is an awesome place to go for a holiday. There's just so much to do out there. It's really cool. All right, so let's keep going. Stay, play, and save. Round 2 will offer people a voucher for a city-based tour or experience when they book a midweek staycation. Oh, wow, okay, anyway, a staycation at one of the 40 participating hotels. The campaign builds on the success of the first Stay, Play, and Save promotion launched in February to boost city hotels hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah. Again, Section 78, Emergency State Management Act. Places who have suffered loss or damages are entitled to fair and reasonable compensation. Why don't you just tell them about the compensation they're entitled to seek through the government? I think this is just a band-aid. It's like shooting someone in the leg and they're going, oh, sorry. It's just not good enough. So these hotels should be able to seek compensation for loss of business to make sure they stay open. And all the associated tourism industries and all that sort of stuff, you should be absolutely nailing the government for all you can get to make sure you... Because you guys that hire all the West Australians that work out your businesses, it's not the government. It was the government's decision to destroy the economy this way. They should be the ones to pay for it. And let's be honest here, ultimately it'll be the taxpayers anyway. So I think this is just stupid. I don't think they should be doing this. If they're going to do something like this, it should be to promote regional travel as well, not just inner city travel. This is sort of like just helping out your mates. I'd love to know who these 40 participating hotels are, and I wonder how many of them are donors towards the Labor Party. The campaign builds on, I've done that one already. The campaign results in more than 3,000 extra room nights for 49 hotels in the Perth region, including 12 hotels whose deals sold out before the booking period ended. So that's not bad. It's good for the hotels, but it's not helping people in the regional areas who are the hardest hit. The latest Stay, Play, and Save campaign includes an offer of a $200 discount on a minimum $400 spend for a 2-night stay at participating city hotels, booked from Sunday to Thursday. As an added incentive, all eligible midweek packages will feature either breakfast or a dinner voucher. Packages will also include a free voucher for a city-based tour, such as a cruise on the Swan River or a food and wine walking tour through the city, valued at a minimum of $150. To add an element of surprise and fun to the offer, the tour or experience will remain a mystery until hotel check-in. That's not really good for people like myself, because I could never do the walking tour. Yeah, I'm a bit of a cripple. Tony, welcome to the stream. I'm thinking I might see if I can move this over here. Actually, that does work. Cool. Sorry, I'm still experimenting with OBS. There's a few things I haven't noticed that I can actually do, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. Stay playing save round 2 bookings can be made from Monday, May 31 until Sunday, June 20, 2021. There's an email address, the web address. Travel until the end of August. Conditions apply. Sounds like an infomercial, actually. Okay, comments from Tourism Minister David Templeman. We know that the accommodation and tourism sectors in the city have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and I encourage Western Australians to stay, play, and save in support of these businesses. The $200 accommodation discount proved really popular with the campaign when the campaign was first launched in February, and saw thousands of people take up the offer of a discounted midweek Perth staycation. The latest promotion offers even more value with the addition of a mystery tour and a meal option. It's even more incentive for people to discover amazing experiences that can be had right here in Perth, including water biking on the river or a Segway tour through Elizabeth Keys. Okay, I'm kind of interesting to see why it's saying David Templeman and John Kerry. Not Kerry. Oh, that's a bit unfortunate. Comments from Perth MLA John Kerry. Should we call him Jim Kerry? I'll be nice. Perth is a fantastic place for people to explore and enjoy at all times of the week, and these deals will help activate the city during the midweek period. There is a lot to see and do, so I encourage everyone to take the chance to be a tourist in your own town and take advantage of these package deals. This, yeah, Taz, we definitely need to call him Jim. Oh, this is just an info commercial all the way. This is not. No. Yeah. All right. Whatever. I would have much preferred to have seen this offered up to regional areas. I think the regional areas are under a lot greater need than what the Perth CBD is. So I would have liked to have seen that more. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I'd like to see how many of the 49 hotels are actually Labor donors. I think that would be quite interesting to see. And I wonder if they can count that as pork barreling. Anyway, we have a new one here. It looks like Fair Work has been getting into it. Sorry, WorkSafe, not Fair Work. I actually don't mind WorkSafe. They're pretty cool. Their press releases are actually informative, unlike a lot of the infomercials. I mean, press releases from the Labor Party. I love coffee. If you guys ever want to send me stuff, coffee, just coffee. Find some fancy coffee stuff. I'm getting into my Vietnamese coffee at the moment, and it's strong, it's awesome, it tastes great. Taz, come on, coffee. And for everyone else there, happy Christmas. I thought I'd get in there before Woolworths and Coles. It's only 9 months away. All right, let's keep going. First imprisonment under WA's workplace safety and health laws. When we catch up for a coffee, Taz, we'll definitely get a Vietnamese one. But you'll probably have to come up to our place because you need the percolator one. It's stupid strong. It was really, really strong. All right, the director of a shed building company has become the first person to be sentenced to a term of imprisonment under WA's workplace safety and health laws. Oh, interesting. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to. Are there kids involved? Well, it's too late now, it's on the screen. Okay, Director of MT Sheds WA Pty Limited, Mark Thomas Withers, was yesterday sentenced in the Esperance Magistrates Court to 2 years and 2 months imprisonment following the 2020 death of a young worker and the serious injury of another. He is to serve 8 months of the sentence immediately, with the remaining 18 months to be suspended for 12 months. He was also fined $2,250 for operating a crane without the appropriate license. Why would you do that? Oh, that's just stupid. It's asking for something bad to happen. Let's have a look here. MT Sheds and Mr. Withers pleaded guilty to a total 7 separate charges, including charges in relation to the death of Jake Williams and the serious injury to Fraser Pinchin in March last year. The charges included one of gross negligence against MT Sheds, for which the company was fined $550,000. Wow. God, they didn't hold back, did they? I'm actually I'm hoping it was just a simple accident which could have been prevented, but the loss of life is never good. That's a massive fine. That's more than most people will get in their lifetime. Anyway, Mr. Withers pleaded guilty to the charge that the company's gross negligence offence occurred with his consent or was attributable to his neglect. It was on this charge that Mr. Withers was sentenced to imprisonment. Other charges were that neither Mark Withers nor either of the 2 employees involved in the incident held high-risk work licence for work they were performing, and that MT Sheds allowed Jake Williams to do the construction work when he did not hold a construction industry training certificate. Oh, wow, why would you do that? I'm sorry. Okay, so first of all, a white card. White cards are basic safety. So don't put cables over the, like when I say cables, like power leads over walkways. When you're grinding anything, wear your safety glasses. If there's going to be loud noise, hearing protection. It's a thing to make sure people on the building site have common sense. And I know it sounds stupid, but there's a lot of people who are losing common sense. Schools, I find a lot of these problems we're having now because schools aren't teaching common sense to kids out of school. For example, when I went to school, I'm 38, so it's like 20 odd years ago. I had to do woodwork, I had to do metal work, I had to do knitting and sewing and all those other classes, home economics. Like I actually learned how to bake cakes and do all that sort of stuff. Where a lot of the context in those things, especially when you're like learning to weld and stuff like that, is like, hey, this will happen, so you wear your safety glasses. When getting a cake out of an oven, the tray is hot, so make sure you wear your gloves. Like, it was really, now look at it, it's like basic stupid stuff. But after watching my daughter spill boiling water on herself, it's like, well, actually they do need to learn these things. So I think a lot of these things should be taught at school, but they're not being taught at school. So I think a lot of this could have been resolved and prevented if our education department just did a proper job in teaching our kids properly the first time. All right, so MT Sheds was fined a total of $55,000 for the breaches of the occupational health and safety and health regulations. The fines are the highest under Occupational Safety and Health Act. Yeah, I thought so. That's a massive fine. Following the McGowan's government increase in penalties for breaches of the workplace safety laws in 2018. I thought Western Power would have got higher ones than that. Didn't they get fined like a couple of $1 million or something? Yeah, anyway. In terms of imprisonment for 2 years and 2 months is the longest term of imprisonment ever imposed for a work safety and health offence in Australia, and the 8 months immediate term of imprisonment is also the longest immediate term ever imposed for a work safety and health offence in Australia. Yeah, we had stupid songs for a heap of stuff as well, Taz. On the day of the incident, 2 workers were installing roof sheets on a large machinery shed. They were constructing on a farm for agricultural purposes without safety control measures in place. A strong wind or willy-willy lifted the sheet from the pack of roof sheets they were working near, causing them both to fall from a significant height. Jake Williams fell approximately 9 metres from the apex of the roof, suffering fatal injuries, while Fraser Pinchin fell around 7 metres from the roof's edge near the gutter line, suffering multiple fractures to his pelvis, hips, wrists and ribs. So, yeah, he probably won't recover from that. Like, if he's fractured his pelvis and his hip, he's going to have massive problems for the rest of his life. I know from personal experience. WorkSafe WA Commissioner Darren Kavanagh said today that the culpability of a work-related death did not get much worse than it is in this case. Yeah, I have to agree with that actually. Mr. Withers completely failed to ensure sense to provide a safe workplace for his employers, and is a consequence. And as a consequence, a young man has lost his life and a family lost a loved one. The state government is committed to improving workplace safety laws, including ensuring that significant penalties are available to provide incentives to comply with these laws and ensure the community expectations are met. Even so, there are no winners in situations like these. A little bit sad that there was a death and that there's potentially a very good business that will go under after this, but safety harnesses, proper strapping for the load, re-strapping a load after you take a sheet off, checking your weather conditions, having proper and all that sort of stuff. So Taz just sent through Mr. Withers equals Mr. Smithers. So no, I'm going to leave that one alone. This is actually a lot of fun having people send comments through as we're doing these sort of things. So I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. No, sorry, that's YouTube. It will be going up on YouTube tomorrow, so if you do want to watch. Now, I do have a question for Inferno Insomnia. There is a way to make the comments appear in the videos, but I don't know how to do that. Alright, so she doesn't do it on herself, but yes, it's through OBS apparently. Okay, I'll have a play with it later and to see if I can get it up. Okay, so the next one we've got, by the looks of it, a three-way with Tony Booty, MLA, Minister for Finance. We've got Simone McGurk and Stephen Dawson, MLC, Minister for Mental Health. Now let's have a look at this one. We have 14.5 million boost for community and mental health services. I wonder how many of these are going to go through to men suffering from the family law court. Ooh. Okay, McGowan government provides 14.5 million in funding increase to contract extensions to more than 150 eligible community and mental health services. Eligible community service contracts expiring in 2021 extended by over a year. 10% increase on 2021 annual funding levels for eligible service providers. I don't know if you guys know this. He just the hospital that receives the most government funding actually lost $10 million in funding. I think it was the Midland Hospital from memory. I'll have to double check that one. So I find it kind of interesting that they're taking $10 million from nurses and giving it to mental health things with people who aren't actually on the front line. Interesting. I wonder if he's just like, again, trying to propel leading up into the federal election. The McGowan government has delivered almost 15 million in funding increases and extended contracts for 12 months to ensure the continuation of important community and mental health services through the COVID-19 recovery. Contracts for eligible providers have been extended to June 30 next year to ensure crucial and in-demand community services continue to support vulnerable Western Australians through the state COVID-19 recovery and support jobs in the female-dominated sector. Interesting that they had to bring female into it, considering the last time I had anything at all from Simone McGurk, it was just women, and hell with men. Okay, the 14.5 million funding boost for eligible contractors will assist with the sustainability of services and the impact of increases in awarded salary rates under the 2012 Fair Work Australia Equal Remuneration Order. I'm guessing that's for the pay gap. 14.5 million funding boost for eligible contractors will assist with the sustainability of services and the impact of increases in award salary rates under the 2012 Fair Work Australia Equal Remuneration Order. Yeah, that's the pay gap. Okay, I'm going to throw a challenge out there to all the listeners and all the people who are going to hate on me for this comment, but don't care. Can you show me one industry where a woman will get paid less than a man? I won't wait because I don't think you'll find one, but yeah, I'm still waiting to find one. There's actually a federal department set up to prosecute, charge, and investigate companies that will pay men and women differently. I understand they've been around. I think it's 2015. I could be wrong on that one. I will double check. In the whole entire time, they have not found a single company that has paid men and women differently. So there's huge amounts of money to run this department, and not a single person, not a single company has been investigated. Well, I shouldn't say haven't been investigated. They're probably investigated a lot, but they haven't brought charges or called anyone into question for paying men and women differently. So anyway, it comes in addition to 82 million in supplementation funding that the McGowan government rolled out from 2019-20 to support the sustainability of contracts awarded prior to the ERO. And the new funding for this sector comprises 9 million for eligible community service providers and 5.5 million for eligible mental health and alcohol and other drug service providers. See, I don't mind that, especially for the mental health and things associated with alcohol and drug abuse. Definitely needs to be sorted. I find that alcohol and drug abuse is a standout head and shoulders cause of domestic violence, abuse to children, and just badness. Like, I find it fascinating that things like marijuana is considered evil, but yet alcohol is fine. Anyway, I think they should be in the same category as each other. I've noticed no one's put a comment in here about an industry where men get paid more. More than 100 eligible community services contracts funded through the Department of Communities will share 9 million in additional funding, including child or sex abuse, family and domestic violence, homelessness, foster care, and out-of-home care support services. Now, I have to say, I've got a friend who fosters children, and the level of support they get is phenomenal. So I'm always for additional money for foster care families, purely because it's a tough gig. It is a really, really tough gig, and my hat goes off to people who do foster care people. Family and domestic violence, as long as it's not gendered, I don't care. More money, the better. Domestic violence goes both ways. Stop gendering it. Homelessness, again, it goes both ways. The biggest problem is if you have a woman who's homeless, generally that she's got kids with her. So we need to start focusing on making sure that no kid ever is homeless, and that's where foster care really comes into play. So things like that, extra money, as long as it's not gendered, I think is always a good thing. Let's have a look here. The Mental Health Commission has been allocated an extra 5.5 million in 2021-22, which will support 51 eligible contracts being delivered to West Australians by mental health, alcohol, and other drug service providers across the state. It'd be interesting to see how much of this money is focused on Perth related and how much is actually related to helping farmers with their mental health. The suicide rates within the West Australian farmers is huge. Yes, females can be just as bad as males. Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who gender domestic violence, and it's something that really, really needs to stop. They just need to stop saying female victims of domestic violence or things like this, or male perpetrators of domestic violence, because violence is not gendered. And I think the greatest way to start getting rid of these isms, such as racism, sexism, religionisms, and all that sort of stuff, is stop labeling people. The moment you label someone, subconsciously you start having them and us, and there's always that divide, and you'll never close that as long as things like the politicians keep harping on about it. So again, I think there's a bit of a failure from these three. They need to, like, the money's good, don't get me wrong, but the way they're doing it, the way it's being handled, I don't approve of it. But anyway, the approved funding, excuse me, the approved funding represents a 10% increase on the 2021 annual level of each provider. Okay, so comments from Mr. Tony, it's actually Dr. Tony Booty, Finance Minister. And the state government is committed to supporting vulnerable West Australians through crucial community service organisations throughout the COVID-19 recovery plan. This 14.5 million funding boost and a one-year contract extension provide certainty for the sector, while agencies and the Department of Finance work to develop longer-term plans under the Delivering Community Services in Partnership policy. This funding boost is in addition to the 82 million in supplementation funding from the government commenced rollout in 2019-20 to support the sustainability of contracts awarded prior to the ERO. Okay, so Minister Simone McGurk. I haven't even read this yet, but I'm guessing she's going to bring women up. The community services sector delivers important services to our state's most vulnerable individuals, families, communities, and contributes significantly to the community wellbeing, economic growth, and employment. The McGowan government recognises the importance of the community service sector and has extended contracts due to expire in the 2021 into 21-22. The sector is a valuable partner in the delivery of services for vulnerable West Australians and are listening to service providers about wage pressures resulting from the 2012 Fair Work Australia Remunerations Order. Well, she didn't say women, but she did bring up the pay gap. So until you can actually find evidence of the pay gap, as far as I'm concerned, Minister Simone McGurk, you're a sexist. You're claiming there's a pay gap, you're blaming men for it, and you've got no evidence for it. So my opinion of you is that you are a sexist, and you need to apologise to all the men who are suffering because of your policy decisions, because you're blaming all of us for everything that other people could just be bad at their jobs. Anyway, moving on. Comments from Minister Stephen Dawson. Community providers in the mental health and alcohol and drug sector work extremely hard, and I thank them for everything they do. Now, more than ever during the COVID-19 recovery, it is essential that these services can continue to support vulnerable West Australians. Each year, 1 in every 5 Australians experience a mental health issue, which is one reason why the McGowan government is committed to keeping our community service sector strong. You know, like I like that. I support that. It's strong. It's just, we need to help these people. Here's the money. 1 in 5. Yep, that's a problem. Let's do it. I'm actually quite impressed with the health minister here, mental health minister. Simone, yeah, I don't like you. Sorry, I think you're a sexist and it's got to stop. Too many times I've read these things and you're trying to have a crack at men and it's not appropriate. So, all right, let's try and get into the last one now. So we drop this one down, we close this one, and so my favourite person in the world, in case you guys don't know, it's the Honourable Roger Cook. I wonder if he's finally announcing that he's stepping down for his poor handling of COVID-19. No, he's not stepping down. Okay, important staffing and bed expansions for Perth's Children's Hospital. I wonder if there was a nurses' protest. Was it yesterday or the day before? Just recently, they cut a whole heap of funding for nurses in the hospitals, and then they try to blame the staff for it, which I think is kind of sad. Nurses do an absolute phenomenal job. Even when you get a cranky nurse, it's probably because she's just finished 20 hours of work, she's been run off her feet and hasn't had a day off in like 16, 17 days. So I cannot compliment the nurses enough with my time being in and out of hospitals non-stop. To cut the funding to hospitals, especially when it comes to the amount of nurses we have, we've got a massive nursing shortage. We need more nurses. We need more support staff for the nurses. I do not know any nurse who goes, oh, you know what? I was bored at work today. It just doesn't exist. We need more nurses. Okay. Important staffing and bed expansion for the Perth Children's Hospital. In addition, 20 an additional 20 beds at Perth Children's Hospital, which include 10 inpatient beds and 10 beds in the high dependency unit, an additional 16 full-time employed nurses for the Perth Children's Hospital Emergency Department, including 2 additional nurses rostered for the emergency department across all shifts, and an additional nurse to cover any leave. An additional administration's officer has been assigned for the triage desk, a designated emergency department resuscitation team on every shift, supported by senior medical and nursing staff from within the hospital attending every resuscitation. New medical advice panel established to identify solutions to address organisational, cultural and staff engagement issues in the health system. That just screams to me, we've got a lot of annoyed staff, we've got an election coming up soon, these people will be talking to people and they will talk to other people, and we need to stop this problem here. This to me is screaming Band-Aid solution. There's major problems and I'm not addressing it. I'm just going to pretend to address it and we'll go from there. So yeah, again, this guy is not one of my favourite people. I don't know how he became the health minister. Maybe it's because he's mates with Mark McGowan. The McGowan government has announced 20 new beds and additional staff to deal with the increase in presentations to the emergency department at Perth Children's Hospital. The demand and workforce pressures experienced by Perth Children's Hospital in recent months mirror the changes being faced by public hospitals across Australia. Then how come all the other nurses aren't protesting? Interesting. Now, here's something that's fascinating for you. I was talking to a few nurses as part of Carter's Corner, and they are not allowed to talk to anyone about what goes on in a hospital. They can't talk about how bad their shifts are. They can't talk about how bad their rosters are. They can't talk about how bad their employment conditions are. They're not allowed to talk about overcrowding of hospitals, the ramping on the beds. They can't talk about absolutely anything. The moment they do, they can get fired on the spot. And on top of that, if they dare to express a political opinion on absolutely anything, they're instantly fired. So I find that disgusting, to be honest with you. These guys are on the front line of the medical system. They are probably the best people to talk out, say, hey, this is what's happening. This needs to change. This is what we need. And then the politicians need to be talking to these people. They shouldn't be talking to the unions. They should be talking to the nurses directly. So I think a lot of the people in our frontline staff, such as the nurses, need a lot more support from the government, and they're just not getting it. And unfortunately, a lot of people voted for these guys. That's why they're still here. Okay, the demand and workforce pressures experienced, we've done that one. The McGowan government is working to address this demand and to improve the workload for staff in the emergency department. It's not just the emergency department that's like massively overworked, just even like intensive care, burns units, like the whole entire lot. And I've got very personal experience dealing with the Perth Children's Hospital burns unit. The staff were phenomenal, okay? One of the biggest problems was getting results from one department, and the reason I can talk about it, because I watched it happen. From, say, the scans or blood tests, whatever, sending it to the doctor that's actually on the ward dealing with the child who's just suffered third-degree burns to her face, chest, arm, and had skin grafts to her right arm. There's these really, really fancy computers in the Perth Children's Hospital, and I said, why don't you just pull them up on the computer? And I'm not going to say who, but there was a person there, and they worked there, and they informed me that due to privacy laws, these very expensive computers, which are in every single room in the hospital, cannot be used just in case someone who's not a family member is in that room, or a cleaner or some other staff person, or if a person who actually works there accidentally leaves it on, it has access to absolutely everyone's medical details. So all these extremely expensive computers all went out the window, paid for and everything, installed, can't be used, utterly useless. So just the organisational on the admin side of things, this is not the nurse's fault. So please do not ever blame the staff at the hospital for any problems in the hospitals. It's not their fault, okay? A lot of the problems come from the admin side of things, and a lot of that's because even the admin are understaffed, underfunded, and overworked. So mistakes are bound to happen. I think it's time that there's a full overhaul on the hospital systems. It's going to cost a lot of money to actually do a proper report on it, but it needs to be done before this starts costing lives. And it's not just the Children's Hospital that's happening. Fiona Stanley Hospital is happening. Armidale Hospital was actually pretty good when I was in there. But Armdale Hospital was the only one which I can actually say was really, really well handled. Fiona Stanley Hospital lost my MRI results for nearly 9 months. They couldn't find them. It's an admin stuff up. So anyway, moving on. The McGowan government has been working with the Perth Children's Hospital over the past few months to put additional resources into the hospital, which include an additional 20 beds. These beds include 10 inpatient beds and 10 beds in high dependency units, HDU. The HDU beds are staggered to open between June to December this year. In addition, 16 full-time employed nurses for the emergency department, which will include an immediate increase in the permanent nursing staff to enable 2 additional registered nurses to be rostered on for the emergency department across all shifts. These 2 nurses will monitor patients in the emergency department waiting area and work across the emergency department, supporting areas with high levels of activity. An additional administration officer has been assigned to the triage desk. An increased allocation of leave provisions to enable permanent recruitment of staff to cover leave. A designated emergency department resuscitation team on every shift, supported by senior medical and nursing staff from within the hospital attending every resuscitation in the ED. An additional staff development nurse in the emergency department, and increased clinical nurse specialist shifts to cover each day to provide supervision of junior medical staff. I like this, but again, it's a band-aid. It's just a band-aid for a gunshot. There's major problems on the administration side of things that need to be overhauled, and this just isn't good enough. Ministerial Advised Panel will also be established to support organisational, cultural and staffing engagement within the health system. The panel will consist of senior health officials, including from each of the health unions. So they're putting workers' unions in to keep an eye on all the staff people. And that just sounds like bullying tactics, to be honest with you. Okay, Perth Children, this is comments from Roger Cook. Perth Children's Hospital has been experiencing an increase in presentations to the emergency department, which mirrors the challenges being faced by the public hospitals across Australia. Nurses are the backbone of West Australia's health system, and the state government is addressing these increased demands and nursing workforce issues. A ministerial advisory panel will be set up to identify solutions to address cultural and engagement issues within the health system. Simple. More nurses, more money. Pretty simple to fix that one. Everyone has the same goal to provide the best healthcare possible for the children of Western Australia. Then why did you start cutting money from the budget? I'm sorry. This is a massive band-aid solution by Roger Cook. I think this is a massive failure from him. Coming the next... I'd actually just like to see him step down, actually. He's failed at handling the COVID-19 Perth quarantine, hotel quarantine systems. He's allowed it to get out multiple times. The security guards running it weren't managed properly. So again, another administration error. The Australian Defence Force should have been called in to manage it, to make sure none of that happened. The border closures was another failure. It was under one of his powers that they were able to do that. I'm really disgusted that the federal court actually upheld this because it's against the Australian Constitution, but that's for another video. The guy's slimy. I don't like him. I don't like what he's doing. I just can't trust him. He's done so many things wrong. Like, yes, the extra money for the nurses is good, but it had to take the nurses putting their own jobs at risk to be able to get even a slither of hope. Now, imagine if those nurses were instead able to help people instead of being worrying about, hey, I may not survive in this job. So I think that's a massive failure from Roger Cook. Our nurses need a hell of a lot more help than what they're getting, and this is just a bit of a failure. So anyway, I'm going to call it there for today. Because I've got a few things I've got to do, hence the reason we started a little bit earlier. So this has been Travis Carter for Carter's Corner. Make sure you get those messages through because I do hit them up. If you do have questions, I will address them. Please jump onto my Facebook, YouTube, all those sort of things. I have a Twitter. I don't really use it, but it's there. And also, if you do want to see more of these videos, please jump onto my Patreon account. So it's patreon.com/Carter's Corner. Every cent helps. It just means pays for the equipment, the data, the research, and all that sort of stuff. Every single little bit helps, so make sure you help out on that side of things. So this has been Travis Carter for Carter's Corner Daily, and I will see you tomorrow at 1:30. There's my mouse.